So in this video, we're going to now look at one of the most key and important modeling techniques, which is localizing topology. This is where you finally get to roll up your sleeves and do a lot of manual edge flow and face loop redirection. This is for instances where you want to keep topology local. Okay, so what do I mean by that? You can see a couple of examples here. So let's take this nice clean grid, Shift D, move it in the X. And then with this face here, let's jump into edit mode. Now, let's say you want to add in geometry and you need it specifically on this side. And you go to Control R and you just start adding in a bunch of edge loops, okay? Now, this is where it's going to cause a problem because even right now it's a simple plane. If I had a bunch of other complex topology and edge flow on this other side, the last thing I'd want to do is continue those edges and route them in that direction. So I want to keep it local in this specific area. So there's a few different ways you can do this. So as you can see here, you can create kind of this diamond quad where if I want to add an edge loop, I can go in and just start to cut this edge like so, and it will terminate here. And then now I have this diamond quad. So I'm just using my knife tool like we have been. And then now I can select this edge here and press X and dissolve edges there. Now, if I select that vertex and press GG to edge slide it and move it, there you go. We are still now left with all clean quads that will subdivide properly. And that is keeping now this area or this set of edges to have 4 edges versus this side, which is still maintaining those 2. Another technique that you can use, if I Shift D, move in the X, and just GY, move this in the Y, is you can just kind of use this face loop technique where it's very similar to just kind of selecting these faces and doing an eye, right, for inset, and then just continuing this here with the knife tool. That's all that really is. Because what's nice about this is, and I can delete essentially this edge here, and I can dissolve edges, boom, right? Because we have now these sets of edges that are running here for this face loop, which is exactly what we want. And again, I'm now left with 1, 2, 3, 4 edges, 4 edges specifically here. And what's even great is you can nest these techniques if you really want. So that means that I can go in and let's say I do this kind of initial kind of cutting in. So I'll grab K, knife tool, and just start to left click cut. And we're just going to continue and create this face loop that is localized only on one side of this geometry. And that's where you really want to practice, right? You just want to have practice and build that confidence to be able to add in that geometry. So let's just for this example, add one right here in the middle. And I'm cutting in here just like so. And then I'll create that diamond shaped quad on the inside. And then if I grab 2, I go into edge mode after accepting that cut, dissolving the edge. There you go. So now look at how you have all these extra edges, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 edges, right? And you could terminate these to even less here. So I can select these vertices, merge them at the center, and then do an X and dissolve edges. Now this is a pretty extreme case, but you get the idea of how you can use this geometry and use these sets of techniques to help localize it and keep it in specifically this area. And this does work great on curved surfaces too. Now you have to keep in mind that when you do use this technique on these curved surfaces, you have to be careful of these poles. So it's not completely free, but you have to make sure you have a good distribution of edges. Okay, so if I Shift D, move it in the X. Now, if I want to create some nice detail in here, again on here, so I'll press Tab to enter edit mode, disable this in edit mode, and then I can just kind of continue to cut up here and create that diamond shaped quad or that kite quad, like a kite shape. And then I can select that edge, dissolve the edges, and we press GG to kind of move that. And let's see what that looks like with the smooth preview. You can see it holds up pretty well, and it holds up primarily because I have a good distribution of edges here. So now you know, if we wanted to, we can grab these edges here. If I control click and move, I can Alt S to move that on the normal a little bit. And then now I have this nice surface detail that's kind of coming up and then transitioning away. And that's a really good technique to, again, I use this for hard surface, for car modeling, where I just kind of transition these just a little bit less as it goes into back into that surface that's completely smooth. And again, the last thing I'd want to do is just run edges that run all the way down the length of the model, which we don't want. And here's exactly a couple of two practical examples, right? Like if you're character modeling and you see that you have this mesh here, and if I apply a smooth preview, let's take a look at what happens. So everything's looking pretty solid, pretty good. However, if I wanted to add in more geometry for the fingers, let's say, the last thing I'd want to do is Control R, and look at that. Just a complete mess of edge loop and topology. And this is a prime example of why you do not want to do this. And instead, the way that I would approach this, let's say if I wanted to add in again, I would just start with K, I grab my knife tool, just kind of start with cutting it here. So let's just move it up. It's essentially what I already did here. So I'll just add in this cut around, and then on the underside, I'll do the same thing where I would just kind of cut here to kind of terminate and stop that. So that allows me now to, I should be able to select this face. I need to make sure that I stop that right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I wanted to. So if I now, boom, look at that. And then now, boom, look at that. I now have these two edges being added here, right? That's adding geometry only in areas of my fingers. So I'm using the palm to help kind of stop and terminate and localize that area only to the fingers, which is perfect for what I'm trying to do. And then of course, like I left them open, but you would just select these and press J to join the vertices, right? You're going to have that on the hard surface objects as well, because I want to hold these corners here, but I don't want to just run edges and then all of a sudden now I have these intricate details over here, and I don't want to start disrupting that topology that I have here. So instead, I can use that face loop technique, right? Because like even worse, I have this perfect circle over here, right? This perfect circle. And the last thing I want to do is add in a couple of edges that will run down there just like that. So, and then you can see it just completely messes up that circle and causes all sorts of disasters. And then even now with this, I mean, I can even add in another edge loop. Let's just say if I wanted to just tighten that corner up a little bit, and it has no issue whatsoever anywhere around it. So giving you the complete control, right? And again, how do I add that? Let me just select these edges here on the inside. In this case, it actually works out pretty well that I can select these and do like an inset on these faces. So if I grab all of these faces, you can just do a nice clean inset, and it actually works out pretty perfect right here. However, let's say, for example, I wanted to add in a corner here without doing like something like this. Again, disastrous, causes all sorts of issues. Instead, I would just kind of keep that geometry here, right, as an example. And I would just kind of cut it on the other side too. So, and then I can control, oops, I want to redo that, Control R. And then now I can just add in these edge loops, cut in this detail, and you can see I just added it where I needed it, right? So perfectly fine. And of course, like I have a couple of n-gons, which isn't a big deal. Like I can split this now, this face, and I can do that on the other side, but you get the idea. On flat surfaces, this many poles is okay, but again, I'm just showing you as an example. So you know, if I have this now, and then now I've localized this topology here, where I can just grab these edges, and now I can say, oh, okay, you know, I want this to be a nice sharp corner, and you go in and boom, I hit tab. We start to get that nice crease corner here through just localizing that topology. All right, so one of the key techniques, and we're now going to take all of the techniques and workflows that we have been in this past module and apply it to the next exercise. So we are going to just put everything into practice and continue to move on, building our techniques and workflows brick by brick and putting it into practical, iterative assignments. I don't like the word assignments, it's just practice for you. Okay, so I'll see you there.